An eighth note is 1/2 of the value of a quarter note. So if a quarter note is 1 beat, an eighth note will be half a beat. Another way of thinking about this is that we can fit 2 eighth notes into the duration of 1 quarter note. There are a couple of different ways that we can write eighth notes. And you see one of those ways in this first measure. We can write eighth notes as a note head and a stem. And if we stop there, we would have a quarter note. But we go one step further and we add this curved line called a flag. So one of the ways that we can write an eighth note is as a note head, a stem, and a flag. And here in the first measure, you see 4 individually flagged eighth notes. There's another way that we can write the eighth note as well. And we start the same way. We start with the note head and the stem, which makes it again look like a quarter note. But then we connect the stem with a line that we call a beam. And that also creates 2 eighth notes, like this. And in the second measure, you see 2 of these groups of eighth notes beamed together. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. And we can beam together eighth notes any way that we want. In the third measure, you see this group of 4 eighth notes that have been beamed together. The important thing to know, though, is that this difference is only a visual difference. There's no difference in the way that we would perform the 4 eighth notes in measure 1, the 4 eighth notes in measure 2, or the 4 eighth notes in measure 3. We perform them exactly the same way each time. Intellectually, there's not too much more to say about the eighth note, but performing the eighth note can sometimes take a little bit of getting used to. The key or the trick in performing eighth notes is to be accurate about subdividing the beat, to be accurate about dividing the beat into 2. I have my metronome here set at 70 beats per minute. If I were going to say ta along with this metronome, along with this beat, that would be pretty easy. Ta, 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 ta. But if I want to subdivide this into 2, if I want to fit 2 tas into each beat, that's going to be a little bit trickier, and that's going to take some practice. Ta, 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 ta. One of the things that you can do to practice eighth notes is to practice going between the beat and the subdivision, like this. Ta, 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 ta. And make sure you can feel that accurately each time. Some metronomes, by the way, have a feature where you can click on the beat, but you can also click on the eighth note. I'm going to show you. My metronome has a feature like that. So let's try this. Here's the beat, and here is the beat with the eighth note. And you'll hear this change. So now I have my eighth note. And back to my beat. If you don't have a metronome where you can do that, it's actually easy enough if you want some help, if you want some extra help or some extra support with the eighth notes. What you can do is this. If you have your metronome on a particular metronome mark, for instance, I have my metronome on 70, so quarter note equals 70. We know that if quarter note equals 70 beats per minute, if there's 70 quarter notes per minute, that means that there are twice as many eighth notes every minute, or there are 140 eighth notes every minute. So if I want to practice something where the quarter note is 70, all I need to do is double my metronome. So I will double my metronome to 140 beats per minute, and all of a sudden the beat will be on the 8th note. So that's a little trick you can do if you want some extra support with the 8th notes when you're just getting going.